2010, Mr. Davis dies, and he was Jewish, and so he followed the Jewish tradition and had to be buried within 24 hours.
Sure.
And so in 2011, Mark, his son, decided that he was going to memorialize his father, have something to memorialize his dad. And so he invited at least 200 former players and their spouses, significant others, flew them to Vegas, put them up for 4 days
Crazy.
at the Bellagio.
Yeah.
And we just got together and just talked about all the old things that were significant. And Mr. Davis loved the Raiders of the 70s and the 80s because they were the ones that won the first Super Bowl.
Yeah, yeah.
And since then, his son Mark has spent a significant amount of dollars supporting the old guys.
Yeah.
And so we get invited back every week, every opening weekend at training camp.
Nice.
Puts us up, has a big dinner. And then he decided that he wanted to capture what was the essence of who the Raiders really are. But he needed to do it quickly because all of us are dying.
Yeah, yeah.
And he is flying, he's hired a production crew and director, and they're flying around the country, and guys from the NFL Films are doing the filming and the audio.
How cool is that?
So they, last fall in 2019, they wanted to know if it was okay to come to Atlanta, and I said, I don't care. And they said, were you worried about COVID? And I said, no. And so they flew into Atlanta, spent 2 days, and all we did was just talk about old stories, old situations. They asked me a few questions and things like, what was Mr. Davis like? What was it like to play for John Madden?
Right.
And what any things that they thought that other people would find interesting. And we spent 2 days.
Yeah.
And we just...
I'm old enough that I remember Madden being the coach, and but he really got his notoriety, I'd say, when he started doing the commentating things on.
Well, I think that his
personality-wise,
his personality is what got him the job.
Right.
But what made him the success was his willingness to be able to do the same thing that he did when he was a coach. He was a teacher.
Yeah.
He taught guys. He understood everything, every position.
Right.
We were playing Minnesota in the Super Bowl in 11, the 76 season. And I had discovered by looking at the films that the Vikings had a tout.
Had a what?
Had a tout. That on short yardage situations, I knew what they were going to do when they lined up from breaking the huddle. So I went to my coach, Don Shinnick, and I told him, now mind you, I'm 25 years old.
Right.
And they are trusting this 25-year-old kid to call all the defenses on the team. So I told him, Don, I said, I've got to tell. And he said, what is it? And I said, well, they cheat the back, and if they don't cheat the back, they're going to run the opposite way. And I said, I'd like you to let me call the defense on the line of scrimmage and not have to call what you call from the sideline.
Because you can see it firsthand.
So he goes, well, wait a minute now. This is Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so he went to Bob Zeman, who was the defensive backfield coach, and the two of them sat down and I showed them. And then they went to John and said, you think that this is going to help us?
Yeah.
And John said, well, show me. So they showed him. And sure enough, they made that decision. Well, fast forward to the game. And there was no scoring in the first quarter. We had marched down the field, and our field goal kicker, Earl Mann, kicked that long field goal and hit the upright. And so there's no scoring. And we're having to punt to them close to midfield, and they blocked the punt.
Wow.
And the ball goes all the way back to our 2-yard line.
Oh, my God.
So they got the ball first and goal, scored 0-0.
Yep.
No. First down on the 2-yard line, and there was a TV timeout.
Yeah.
So on the sidelines and talking to the coaches, and I said, don't worry. I said, I got this.
Yeah.
And so they start the clock again, and I'm running onto the field, and Madden yells at me. He says, "Monte," I turn around, and he says, "Don't let me down." No pressure, right?
Yeah, right.
So
just the Super Bowl.
We go into the game, and they break the huddle, and I started, barking out, well, what's the defense and what everyone was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And we shifted the line in such a way that there was no way that they could block Phil Dillon.
Right.
So Phil was unblocked, hit the running back in the backfield right when Tarkington was putting the ball on his belly, tackled him for a 2-yard loss. So now it's 2nd down and 4.
Right.
They break the huddle, and they come out in the same formation, and I called the same defense, slide the line. They can't touch Phil. This time, Phil hits him right when he's just about to put the ball, and the ball pops loose.
They didn't catch it, did they?
They didn't know.
Yeah.
Ball falls on the ground, and Willie Hall sees the ball and jumps on it and covers it.
Yeah.
And we recover the ball on the 2-yard line.
Wow.
We marched 98 yards for the opening.
What a
touchdown.
great story.
Game's over.
Wow, what a great story.
That whole game, there wasn't one time on short yardage.
Yeah.
Or on a goal line when they ran the ball
Right.
that they made a first down.
Yeah.
Not once.
That's cool. You mentioned these other players, and I remember the names and everything, and it's just, man, I love old football. The stuff today where I don't want to get political about it, but kneeling during the anthem stuff.
Today, Cody, I think folks are rather than following a team, they follow players.
Yeah.
So you
absolutely.
Get a kid it doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
Peyton Manning, all of a sudden everybody comes to Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan.
Right.
And but really, truth matters, they were a Tom Brady fan.
Yeah.
And they wanted the Buccaneers to win, not because they wanted the Buccaneers to win. They wanted it because they wanted Tom Brady.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the things, and free agency is what did that.
Yeah, and I think there's so many, billions and billions of dollars behind the media and all the stuff that goes on in the background.
Well, all these guys that are playing now need to thank us because we're
absolutely you blazed the trail for sure. Yeah. So.
I mean, those games against Pittsburgh, my rookie year, we beat them in the first playoff game and then go down and lose to Miami in the AFC Championship game. And that's the year Miami goes 17-0.
My youngest brother, he was a rabid Miami fan, and he's from up around Chicago.
Yeah.
And ever since they won that win, never 0 losses.
Yeah.
He's been a total fan of them.
So they end up. So then the next year, we play them in the AFC Championship game. In Oakland, and they beat us.
Wow.
And then the next year, we played them in the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh, and that was the Ice Bowl.
Yeah.
And they won like 15-12 or something like that, some crazy score. A lot of field goals in that game. And then the following year, we played them in Oakland again. We beat them. And each year that they won the AFC Championship game, they went to the Super Bowl and they won.
Yeah.
And then when we beat them finally in the 76th AFC Championship game, we went to the Super Bowl and we won.
Yeah. That was real football back then. They didn't have the quarterbacks wearing skirts and, no touch this. And
then again, that it had a lot to do with who the players were. Because,
Sure.
77, we go to the AFC Championship game. Pittsburgh gets beat.
Yeah.
And they're not in the playoffs. And then we're not in the playoffs in 78. They're not. Pittsburgh's not.
Yeah.
And then there's a little dearth of time.
Yeah.
And it was the players.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Listen, I sure enjoyed the visit.